Hi everyone, it's Lynn Dion here from Pink Whisper Designs. Today we're going to make a really fun Lawn Fawn card, and we're going to use some cute little robots, and we're also going to be using a layering stencil to create the background. So let's go ahead and get started. So for paper today we're going to be using the Strathmore Bristol Smooth 100-pound cardstock, and this die set here from Lawn Fawn. We're taking that large rectangle, and these are the small Slimline with lift the flap die set. And we're just going to be using that rectangle today, but it does have those adorable lift the flaps as well. So I'm going to go ahead and run this through my Spellbinders Platinum 6 die cutting machine. And I'm placing it on a little bit of an angle just to make it easier to run that through. So now that we have that die cut, I'm going to grab this stencil. This is from the Tim Holtz collection and Stampers Anonymous, and this is called the Gears Layering Stencil. So I'm going to attach my rectangle here with a little bit of tape from the Tombow tape runner, and that will easily remove when we're done. It'll just hold this in place while we do our inking. So I'm also going to add a little bit of purple tape to hold the stencil in place. And then for inks, we're using Blue Hawaii, Blue Raspberry, and Pool Party. And these reactive inks will react beautifully to water when you either spatter it or spritz it with water. You're going to get a beautiful effect. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the Pool Party, and I'm just going to apply that over the stencil here. And I want a nice even coating of this. So I'm kind of daubing it on kind of up and down a little bit and then rubbing that in just to get a nice thick coating of ink here. So once I have that color laid down, I'm not going to do that right hand section of the card at the bottom yet because that stencil crosses over there, and I'll do that after we remove the stencil a little bit later on. So now with the Blue Raspberry, I've just added a little bit of color just randomly here and there, and I'm going to do the same thing with the Blue Hawaii. So now I can go ahead and remove the stencil so that we can finish this bottom right hand corner. So I'm going back to the Pool Party, and I'm going to finish off that corner there. Again, just applying a nice coating of ink here. And now I'm taking the Blue Hawaii and I'm going to go all the way around the edges. I just want to define that edge a little bit more. Bring your eye more into the center here. So I'm just going to, I'm coming in from the craft mat, from the glass mat up onto my cardstock. So I'm starting on the mat and then pushing that ink up onto the card. And then I'll go back to the Blue Raspberry and just add a little bit more of a shadow in there. And I'll blend it out with the Pool Party one last time. Now I'm going back to the Blue Hawaii. I'm spritzing that with a little bit of water from my Distress sprayer, and I'm going to go ahead and spatter this panel. And that'll just bring everything together here. And again, because it is a reactive ink, you're going to get a really interesting look to the paper. So that'll easily remove from our glass media mat. I'm going to set that aside to dry. Once that's dry, I'm coming in with my metallic accents. These are from Prima Marketing, and these are a beautiful metallic watercolor. So I'm going to put a little bit of water in that one there. That's kind of just a kind of a white, silvery white color here. I'm putting enough water in there, and then I'm going to go ahead and spatter this panel again with this beautiful metallic ink. Right here you can see that beautiful shimmer that we get from that, and again that just brings that panel together. Now to do my stamping, I'm using the Hero Arts, these little blocks. These are the small block trio set, and you get 3 different sizes in this set, and they do have those nice grid lines on there, which makes it really easy to line up your stamps. I'm going to grab that little robot from this set here. This is the Charge Me Up stamp and die set from Lawn Fawn. So I'm going to go ahead and attach that to my acrylic block. And for stamping, I'm going to be using the VersaFine Onyx Black ink, which is a permanent black ink. I'm going to stamp 4 of these. So I went ahead and stamped all 4 of those. And now for coloring, I'm using Grape Slush, Lemon Drop, Fruit Punch, and Key Lime Fizz. And again, these are the Hero Hues Reactive inks, and I'm going to use these for coloring. So I'm placing a little on my glass media mat, I'm spritzing it with a little bit of water, and then I'm going to use a small paintbrush here just to fill in these little robots. Now I'm trying to keep the edges of these robots the darkest. So I'm going to just kind of go around, just lay down a little bit of color. And then I'll keep coming back in and applying a little bit more, just kind of layering up that color a little bit. Now I'm going to add a little bit more ink to my glass medium mat here in a second, just so that I get a little bit of a drier ink that will go on a little bit darker, because I thought after I blended this out it was still a little too light. So there you see me taking a little bit more of that ink. I'm just using my damp brush to pick that up, and that'll give me a little bit more shading here around these edges. Now later on we are going to come in with a little bit more shading. So here I'm just laying down kind of the base color here that I want. And I decided to use the ink pads to color in with because I just think these Hero Hues reactive inks are just so beautiful, and they all coordinate so well together. So I'm just going to blend this out again, and I'll do this same exact technique for all of these robots, just switching out the colors. And then for the bottoms on their feet here, I'll just leave the tops the lightest, and then I'll add a little dot to that little antenna there. And then with my Zig Gray, these are water-based pens, I'm just going to add a little bit of shadow here on these other parts of the robot, and I'll use the blender pen to blend those out. Now you could certainly use your water brush here as well. So again, I'll color in all of these using the same technique that I used here. Now once those were dry, I'm taking my light gray Zig pen, and I'm going to go around these and create a shadow all the way around. And that will just give these a little bit more dimension, make them look a little bit more three-dimensional. Going back to my Zig blender and just blending that gray in towards the middle here. And I thought this added a lot. I would have used an ink pad if I had an ink pad in the right color. I know there are some new colors available, and there is one called Fog, which I think I'm going to pick up just for this reason of being able to do a little bit more shadowing. And there's also a black that's available as well, which I currently don't have, but I'm hoping to grab those different colors that are out now. So all 4 of those are colored in, and I'm just going to grab the coordinating die here, go ahead and tape that down with a little bit of purple tape, and I'll run these through my Sizzix Sidekick machine. Now I'm using the Pearlescent Vellum paper, and you can see that it has that pretty pearlized effect to it. This is a beautiful vellum paper, and we're going to be stamping our sentiment right on this vellum paper. So I'm going back to those acrylic blocks, and I'm going to grab a sentiment here from the Long Distance Hug set. And it will say Sending Smiles, and we're going to use that little heart in the center as well. So what's nice about these Hero Arts acrylic blocks is they do have those grid lines there. So it makes it really easy to line up your sentiment. So I'm going to use the grid lines here. I just placed it on some black paper so you could see those lines. And I'm going to put that little heart right in the center there. So it'll say Sending Smiles. always like to test out my sentiment on some scrap paper before I go to my cardstock, just to make sure it's nice and straight. And I was glad I did that because I actually had it actually said smile sending. I didn't even realize I had done that before. So I edited that out, but it's a good reason to check and make sure that your sentiment is lined up properly and that you have it in the right order as well. So now with the red zig pen, I'm going to flip this vellum paper over and I'm going to fill in that heart. And if you've never colored with vellum paper before, a great way to color with it is always to color from the back side, and you get a beautiful effect when you flip it over. So now this cardstock measures 7 inches by 8.5 inches, and we're going to score it at 3.5 inches. That'll give us a standard slimline card, which will measure 3.5 by 8.5. I'm just pressing that out with the bone folder. And now I've got my sentiment here, and I'm going to go ahead and attach that down towards the bottom of this panel. So I'm going back to that Tombow tape, and I'm just going to place a little bit on the back here. And then with the vellum paper, it's really easy to wrap it around to the back. You can just press it with your fingers and tuck that back there just to secure it for now. And you can see how pretty that little heart looks by coloring it from the back side. So I'm taking my ATG 700 permanent tape dispenser to tape this down. This is a nice, really strong tape. So I'm going to lay this panel right in the center of my card. And I'll grab my little robots here. I'm going to use some Scotch foam mounting tape to pop these up a little bit. And I'll just apply some small little pieces of foam tape all around the backs of these. Then I'll remove the backing from that tape and I'll just attach these to the card. So I did that for all 4 of these. Now I wanted to add a couple clouds and the sun here. So I'm going to die cut 3 clouds, the sun, and that little circle is the moon, but I'm going to use it in the center of the sun. And these dies are from the Foursquare backdrop portrait die set. So I'll go ahead and run these through the Sizzix Sidekick machine. And again, I'm using that little circle just to give the center of the sun a little bit more dimension. Now going to the pool party, I'm going to add a little bit of color down at the bottom of each of these clouds, just a tiny bit of color there. And I'll do that for all 3 of those. And then for the sun, I'm using Fruit Punch and Lemon Drop. And I'm going to start with that lemon color. And then for the center, I'm using that Fruit Punch. And then to create more of an orangey color out of that, I'm going to add a little lemon drop over the top. And that'll give us kind of that orangey creamsicle color. And I'll do the same thing here. So just keep adding color here till you get the look that you're going for. So I use my glue tube to attach that circle to the center of the sun there. And now that I have these all set, I'm going to go ahead and just try to determine where I want these on my card. So I thought the sun should have a couple clouds around it, and then I'm just going to put one down here behind that little robot there. So once I determine where those need to go, I'm going to glue those down. And this one here I'll pop up with a little bit of the foam mounting tape. Now using my Uniball Signo white gel pen, I'm going to add some highlights here. Just again to give a little more dimension to the robots, and I added a little bit to the sun there. And then I added 3 little dots to the cheeks on each of these robots, and then a little tiny bit to the top of the feet there. So let me give you a closer look at the finished card. I just love these little robots. They are just so cute. And I've done another card with these robots, which I will link to below. Just in case you want to check that out, you can check it out either here or on my blog. And all the products I used today are listed down below as well. So if you enjoyed today's video, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to visit me at pinkwhisperdesigns.com. As always, thank you so much and have a great day. Bye-bye.